Hello, I'm Bill Matthews. I'm Director of Business Development at HighWire Press. Very happy to be here. And Phil, thank you for inviting me to participate. And as I was talking to Phil, I'm very happy to be Roger Daltrey, but don't expect me to rip my shirt off and be throwing my microphone in the air at this point. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to take a 10,000-foot view of general app performance and trends across the HighWire hosted journals who have launched on the iOS platform. And even now we know it's way too early to draw any concrete conclusions, but we wanted to simply look for some general observations that we can potentially learn from. Things like initial launch. Is there a drop-off after initial launch? If so, how far is it, and what can we do to smooth it out? What is that length of time? What are some of the peaks and valleys of app usage? What are some of the potential strategies to maintain user engagement by some publishers? Is there any difference in terms of mobile versus tablet, app versus mobile web, and any best practices we can glean? So taking the 50 million foot view, obviously smartphones in terms of usage and tablet usage is here to stay. Right now, 56% of phone users are, 6% of phone users are smartphone users, and that's going to go up to 80% within a few years. And tablets is even more disruptive. Right now, tablets already represent, even at this point, about 51% of total internet usage, and that's going to be climbing to 70% in a few years as well. But if we look at our own industry, we can see that usage of tablets and mobile devices varies and is more concentrated within our scholarly community. This is a study that was done several months back, and basically it was looking at U.S. healthcare professionals in terms of their usage of mobile and tablet and PCs. And what we can see is somewhat intuitive in terms of our community, especially within the healthcare professionals standpoint, and that is that tablets right now are primarily used for things like reading, downloading, and sharing, and phones are used for skimming, searching, and sharing, and that's pretty evident by some of the numbers we're seeing here. What strikes me as really pretty amazing is that this study was done in December of 2012, and already over a quarter of the activities done by some healthcare professionals were being done on the tablet, and we can expect that to grow up quite dramatically as it becomes part of their workflow. So what we looked at across all of the HighWire apps is we looked at 19 applications, 38 journals, primarily in the biomedical discipline. The criteria for inclusion was they had to have apps in the store for at least 6 months, and right now it is limited to iOS apps because that's what we had data for. Shameless plug, Android is available now on HighWire as of a week ago. Metrics in terms of downloads include any variant of an article, including an abstract, extract, full HTML, or full text PDF. And what we decided to do was look at just downloads as independent. We're going to try to dig in and try to figure out different components of the download, because a single user could glean value from both abstracts and full text in PDF separately. And also, a session could be 3 different downloads. For example, it could be an abstract, a PDF, and an HTML. But usually within sessions, what we're finding is that an abstract is downloaded first, then either a PDF or a full HTML download. So this is taking a look at the HighWire App Platform and all of the apps' growth, and you can see that apps are growing quite well. And as you would expect, you're seeing a lot more activity in tablets, given this particular discipline, than you would within mobile.
Could I just ask for clarification?
Sure.
Is that downloads of the app, or is that
this is usage. Yes, this isn't downloading of. This is downloads within the app, if you will. So what we're seeing here is, and I want to look at the very trend line at the end, because this is something we all have to be aware of. HighWire released a feature supporting offline and speedier workflows by introducing a full text issue download. What that does is that allows users to go ahead and look at all components at one time after the download is there. What that creates is a problem because some of the metrics after an app was already downloaded can't be visibly measured, as the gentleman up on our panel knows. So it's something we have to be aware of. And something we also have to be aware of is this is not going to be limited to mobile devices in the future, because HTML5 is also going to have the same types of issues where you can go ahead and take that information, have it stored locally on your desktop. So the full issue download was launched at 2 different points within the HighWire app, once in September and once in March, and you can see that the effects start to lend themselves to more of that usage offline. So then we wanted to look at all of these apps individually and see if we can find any patterns. Basically, the patterns are all over the map in terms of what types of activity a particular publisher may have done around the launch of the app. Some consistencies that we did know is there is some seasonality which ties somewhat into the scholarly calendar, which is there was a drop-off in December and a drop-off in June. And we're also noticing that there is somewhat of a novelty effect in terms of ramp-up. In other words, how many apps do we all have where we go ahead and download them and then they're used maybe once or twice and then the degradation starts. Not quite as strong within our community because the apps are a part of the workflow. So this is looking at apps that have been available for 12 months or more. This is looking at apps that have been available for 12 months or less. And some publishers have done various means of promoting their app ongoing, both at launch as well as throughout. Promotions around events, promotions around features, promotions around any type of content enhancements, or any other thing they want to message that could potentially get their user to engage more with the app. But one thing that we really wanted to dig into was, again, that, how long is the launch period for an app, and how long or when does that stabilization occur for overall apps? So we found 2 we wanted to look at individually. One is Journal A and one is Journal B. Each of these had very, very good ramp-up time, and both of them eventually also had very good stabilization in terms of app usage over time. These 2 individual publishers were gracious enough to let me call them out and use their name, and also they share with me some of their promotional activities when they launched the app. The first one was the Sage, how do you pronounce this? Otogonology. And the second one was the Journal of American Heart Association. And for each of these, there were different approaches, but somewhat consistent in terms of keeping that stabilization ongoing. First of all, let's look at the Journal of the American Heart Association. Their app launched in April. They did a very, very good job with a very, very high ramp-up, and since that point in time, it's remained very, very consistent. The other thing you'll notice about the American Heart Association's app is that there's actually pretty good split usage between the tablet and the app. And when I talked to Heather Goodell, she told me basically that they're overall trying to focus on keeping that app usage and understanding that mobile phones are used for searching and tablets are used more for reading and sharing. Some of the promotional activities they did around their launch was they did it in concert with other apps that the Journal of the American Heart Association has. We also need to keep in mind that they are an open access journal. But despite that, they had 9 electronic campaigns and 25 print campaigns around the launch. They messaged around the events, including the regular smaller 12 meetings per year. In April, the World Heart Federation in Dubai. In August, the European Society of Cardiology. In November, at their annual meeting. At every one of these meetings, they had help desks and they had banners on their journal homepage when they were promoting their event, and they had flyers handed out at their tables and on the walls of the event. And then throughout, they also were making awareness very known through their council newsletters. The second one, looking at the Sage Auto app, is again, they had very, very fast launch and adoption, but then they had a big drop-off. But then they started to build that back up again. So this, I was very curious in terms of what they did to go ahead and develop this pattern twice. So what they did was they actually gave free access. This is not an open access journal. They gave free access for 90 days when introduced in late March. Obviously, the usage on the app, because it was free content, went up pretty well. And then in June, it ended. They also timed the launch around the combined otolaryngology spring meetings, and they did some promotions, the societies themselves did, as did Sage. They had leaderboards on the home page and actually on some article pages on the regular journal website. One of their banners linked to the iTunes store directly for downloading of the app. The other banner linked to product info, which then had a link to the iTunes store. And they also made awareness of the app to their members through their e-talks to 9,000 members. A leaderboard initially, and then just an icon tied to what the usage should be. So one of the key findings we found out about this, which actually is very encouraging, and this is what they share with me, is that app usage did not degrade at all the level of usage by the mobile web. If anything, there was kind of a halo effect, if you will. For example, as I said earlier, in March, they had an app release. In June, they had the end of their free trial. And in September, they had the societal annual meeting. All those events which drew app usage did not affect at all their mobile web traffic. That's what this represents, is this is just the mobile web. This is excluding apps. So if anything, it's again lending itself to that theory of, mobile webs can still be used for searching and quick skimming, but the app is used for more detailed type of activities. Then we looked at the trends within the HighWire platform overall, again, just looking at mobile web only, and we can see that just looking at these particular apps, growth was still growing quite dramatically for mobile web, independent of apps. So the takeaways we took were, out of this, just again, a very general high-level view, is that we should expect for some drop-off following an initial launch and plan for it. The app market will stabilize eventually with typical seasonal or marketing-driven ebbs and flows of content usage. We suggest marketing or promoting your event around annual conferences or new and enhanced features. Message your new features or introduce new content in step with any seasonal dips. Since it's a part of the workflow, you can't steer usage, but at least you can align with your user's behavior and workflow. And mobile web access is not impacted at all by app usage. As a matter of fact, it's complementary. And we have to be aware of this ongoing, and that's that offline local usage via full issue downloads is going to be an issue in terms of how we track performance over time. Thank you, and rock on.